off in this place, catching vibes, sit back and we blaze in the sky like I'm out of space. Natural high, light it up, light it up, light it up, light it up.
What's going on, cigar world? What's going on, cigar enthusiasts? This is Jack, the cigar enthusiast, and I'm back with another banger, man. I hope you guys are having a great day, had a great weekend, and let alone had a great week. Because what we got in store for you today is about to be amazing. It's about to be epic. It's about to be everything you want to call it, because we got a special guest in the house that is not only a Navy veteran, so she understands the smoke deck environment and everything, but she's also has some of the most amazing coffee I done had by far, and I can't wait to have her, on the show. But without doing all, giving too much, man, make sure you go ahead and hit that. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, give us a huge thumbs up. And if you're watching on Facebook, go ahead and share. I'm a little behind on my sharing, so anybody that can share is caring, okay? We need to go ahead and get this thing out. But, man, I appreciate you guys tuning in again for another awesome week, man. I promise you it's going to be a great episode, man. Also, if you haven't seen or visited Dapper D Cigars and you live in Jacksonville, you should be ashamed of yourself. You need to come out here, have a cigar with us, have a cup of this coffee by Key, as well as have a great cigar, some wine, whatever you like, because we're the best. I don't know what else to tell you. But, man, I hope everybody is doing good, man. And again, just, living life. Anyway, go ahead and hit them comment buttons. That comment box, man. Make sure you go ahead and, drop a hello, what's up, hey, how you doing? Something that makes me feel good, makes me and Key feel good. Also, if you have any questions about what we got going on, or any questions for Key or myself, man, go ahead and hit the comment bar, and yeah, let's get this thing going. Thanks, Brother Red, for tuning in. I actually just got done speaking with somebody of influence here in Jacksonville, and this brother has a daughter that is amazing in basketball. She is dropping them left to right, and hey, you're gonna get a call soon, my brother. Also, my beautiful wife, always in the house, that sexy thing, boy. I wish I could pour her in some cup. Hey, Key, can we get that figured out? Able to make a coffee that symbolizes my wife, so when I'm drinking it, it's good. Also, my boy Gray Wolf, man, thank y'all so much, man. Hit that share box, all right? Anyway, man, this week we have an awesome, amazing guest coming in. She is a coffee distributor and manufacturing her own coffee. There's nothing like coffee and cigars. Once you figure out a really good coffee that goes well with most cigars, it's one of the most refreshing ways to cleanse your palate, to actually be able to not only soak in all of those notes of that cigar, but it allows you to really kind of get those. It kind of helps you pinpoint those notes. So if you're new to cigars and coffee, trust and believe after this, you're going to be wanting to go to the local store or ordering from Key to get you some coffee and to try with your cigars. Trust me, you're going to enjoy it. Without further ado, introducing Kenisha, a.k.a. Coffee by Key. What's going on?
Hey, how are you?
I am great. How's everything going?
Going great. I had this temperature change here. I'm in Fleming Island, so I'm a little south of you.
Okay.
Temperature change. So, yeah.
Oh, temperature change. No, let's tell her what it is. It's cold outside for us Floridians.
Yeah,
okay?
man, I got on the hoodie.
Hey, it's cold. It's raining. It's the greatest weather to get sick in. Let's just say that. Well, Key, we appreciate you coming by and stopping by and taking some time out of your schedule to not only speak to our followers as well as the people that support us the most, but also to really put your brand out there you know, I actually haven't lit up yet. You actually beat me to the punch, and that's, yeah, you know, that, man, but yeah, man, I am so interested in not only learning about coffee, but understanding the complexity that goes into, you know, not only, you know, making the coffee, but also ensuring that you're making blends that are a captive to everybody's palate. But before we get into all of that stuff, man, how about you give us, you know, a brief synopsis of you? Tell everybody who you are, what company you're with, and then let's talk.
Okay, so as you said earlier, I'm Kenisha. Key is a nickname that I got in the Navy. And so I'm a coffee roaster here. So what I do is I import green beans, or I work with different exporters and importers to get the green beans, and I'm able to roast them to bring out what I believe the bean was intended to be.
Yeah.
And so I've been roasting coffee for about 5 years, but I've had the company close to 3 now. And so that's, you know, me in a nutshell. And I've been smoking cigars, and I agree with everything you said about pairings and cleansing the palate and everything like that. So I combined those two loves of mine and selected my blends.
So you're a veteran,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
what awesome branch did you serve in?
Navy.
Okay, come on now. So did you retire from the Navy?
No. So that I went in 95. So about the time that I made chief, they started requiring those on shore duty to do individual augments. My husband was also active duty, and so we were like, okay, what are we supposed to do with our children?
Right. You actually broke up. I don't know if everybody else heard you, but
I'm sorry.
I did not.
Yeah, so I did 12. I did not retire.
You did 12 years and got out?
Yeah, they started with the IAs, and so I let my husband stay in and have all the fun. And I left. Hey, Leslie. Thank you, Grable.
So the sound did go out. So we're gonna backtrack just a tad bit. So Navy, you did 12 years, you got out. 12 years in the Navy. You know, a lot of people, I hate it when people did this to me. It was like, oh my God, you're almost to the end. Why you quit? You know, oh my God. Anyway, they don't realize that, you know, the Navy is not really the best place to try to raise a family, especially when you have 2 people in the Navy, you know, trying to build their career. It takes a lot of sacrifices. And I think the only people that really suffer from it is our children. So I think you made a great decision. So how's the journey been since you gotten out?
So I dealt with can you hear me?
Yes.
When I took my anchors off, there was a bit of an adjustment. I had to learn how to be in the real world. I still hear 5 whistles and start looking around. So, you know, my language, the things I say are still very much Navy. A lot of the lessons that I learned are still very much Navy. And but my husband retired last year. He did 26.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And he did 26. So it was just a different service. I was serving on the home front.
Yes. I mean, that's one of the most important jobs in the Navy, to be honest with you.
Yes.
You know, and I think that's one of the most, you know, underappreciated jobs in the Navy as well. You know, they at the re-enlistment ceremonies, they give the family these certificates, and it's more of a checklist type deal versus really understanding how much that family had to sacrifice. So again, thank you, and you know, to your husband, if he's watching, thank y'all for your service. Me and my wife was Navy, so well, I'm Navy. I was Navy. She is Navy. So we understand. So I guess the biggest question is, like, after getting out, like where was it there where you really started to kind of manifest that, coffee and, the importance of coffee and the kind of not only the importance, but more of the passion behind roasting coffee?
So the when I was active, of course, being active, I drank a lot of coffee. And it wasn't necessarily specialty coffee. It was whatever I could get. I just need to get through this watch. And I didn't really like it. And when I first tried specialty coffee, it was a whole different world. And I was like, wow, I can actually drink coffee and enjoy it. It's not for utility. Yeah. And so I started learning more about the coffee bean itself. And I started looking at roasting the bean. And because the roaster is how you when you're cooking. So imagine when you're cooking, you're bringing out what you want people to taste. Roasting coffee is very much that same way. So, for example, Ethiopian coffee beans tend to have a chocolate berry note. So you can roast it to where you get that berry note.
Absolutely.
So, and it was just fun. And I went to Portugal to a roasting event, and I went to different camps, and I decided I would turn it into a business. Yeah.
So you mentioned something about green beans. Like, now explain this to me, because somebody that don't really know the ins and outs about, coffee beans and different things of that nature. Is it an actual green bean?
Yes, I can show you. I'm sorry, I'm out of frame, but I can show you because I was just roasting before we started talking.
Okay.
So the green beans. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah. Okay. They look like that.
Okay. Can you just hold one up like this? So it's more like okay. So it's all coffee beans start off as green?
Yep.
Interesting.
And then they turn into what you know and love. You roast them, and then they turn brown. Of course, with the cooking process or the roasting process.
So how long does so I'm a cigar guy, right? Like I see that you're smoking that Candela, right?
Yes.
Which that Candela is the natural color of every single leaf prior to fermentation, as well as aging and all those different things and curing process that changes the shade. I mean the shade of that leaf to be more of a darker note or whatever the case may be. So understanding the cigar side of it, I can probably kind of understand this coffee side, but I really want you to kind of explain how this roasting process is, because I love processes. I always fall in love with processes.
Right. So it's very much the same. Right. So the green is what we get when they come off the plant. It grows from a plant. So it's basically a seed. And then you apply the heat the way that you're choosing to, but remembering, just like with cooking, you don't want it to burn on one side, right?
Absolutely.
So you have to rotate it in the drum, usually in the roaster drum, and you develop a profile, right? So let's say if you cook it for 20 minutes, you're getting more. Hey, you gotta get it lit.
Hey, I'm listening though. These comments, just Grey Wolf was on one time. Just not to get sidetracked, but Grey Wolf was on one time, and I was having the hardest time getting a lighter. My lighter would not light. And I own a cigar lounge, and none of it is. I couldn't get it. It was terrible. I just couldn't light the damn cigar. And true story. I'm in my office right now, and I'm trying to figure out where my cutters and my lighters is. That's normally on my desk. But Grey Wolf, come over here. Bring me my lighters and cutters. Sorry, go back to the story. So the cooking. It's just like cooking. You don't want to burn the other side. If you roast too much, it'll burn it.
Exactly.
There you go.
So you know how when people go to restaurants and they ask them, do they want the steak rare, medium rare, well done? It's the same with coffee beans, right? So you get a light roast, medium roast, darker roast, and you get different things, different characteristics at each
All
roast.
makes sense now.
So you get different. So for example, if you usually with the dark roast, you're going to get more smoke, more char flavor. It's going to be a darker, heavier roast. But if you roast it too light, you can get a little grassy taste. Much like with this Candela, right? So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Keep going. I was listening. I'm just amazed because at the end of the day, like, you know, so many times, like, we always fall in love with the process afterwards, right? We always want to, you know, kind of what's the word? We often want to, you know, we always want the end product. So, you know, when I go to, I'm a Starbucks guy, so don't be offended. It's just accessible to me.
That's where I started.
So, you know, as a Starbucks type of guy, you know, I understand what Starbucks did to the mom and pop, not only store, you know, brewery or coffee shops, but also to people like roasting. I mean, it's just like cigar tobacco. You know, they want to get it as cheap as they possibly can and don't care about the people that's out there knocking it out and different things of that nature. So just kind of hearing the process about how it goes from that, you know, that greenish to, you know, the different phases it's funny. Now it all makes sense on why coffee, you know, pairs so well with different type of cigars. And it's like you can legitimately get a greenish coffee to go with a Candela, or a medium roast to go with a medium cigar, or a dark roast to go with a Maduro. And I just never thought of it like that.
It's so interesting. I personally like medium to dark roast.
Yeah.
He's citing general orders to you. But I really love the medium dark.
Okay.
Because you get so many of the flavors in that range. You don't get the extreme. And you know, I too have, and my roasters will disown me for admitting this, but I too like Starbucks. They tend to roast very dark because it has to stand up to the flavors, the sweeteners. It has to stand up to that and still taste like coffee. So,
you know, and I think that's like, so I really want to know more, right? I want to know more because, like you said, Starbucks has a bolder coffee because, I mean, at the end of the day, like anything, you can lower the strength on that down, but you can't pick the strength of it up. It's really hard for you to, like I said, you roast. I don't know what the roasting process is, and we're about to get into like how we actually roast that. But I'm gonna imagine, let's just say you roast something for 5 minutes versus 30 minutes. I mean, you're getting two different flavors. So, understanding that is like, now I see kind of how Starbucks are, but like, how are big companies like affecting you and your business, you know, in the coffee business?
Larger companies, really, you know, it's kind of a lane, if you will, right? So, you know, much like cigars, we have well-known brands, and then we have boutique brands, right? So, you know, the well-known brands, somebody may be used to that, whereas a boutique brand can't or does not do things the same way. So it's just different.
And so the biggest thing that I kind of want to, you know, get into is like, yeah, you have the boutique brands of it, but how does a boutique coffee brand stand out versus Starbucks? Like what is the difference? Because I mean, honestly, I think, you know, kind of just diving deeper into it, for a boutique brand and a premium cigar brand, really, honestly, it's really how long the name has been in the industry.
Exactly.
And yes, majority of the times, you know, the tobacco is grown the same way, it is fermented the same way, it is cured the same way, and sometimes the aging process is different, but yet it still ages the same way. So, you know, boutique brands kind of you can kind of manipulate your wrappers and different things of that nature to kind of make it stand out, to make people want to grab it more. You can kind of get promotional things where you may get somebody like me to review your cigar and it's a hit or whatever the case may be, or anybody that's bigger than me, because I'm a little guy. I'm not as big as some of these other people, but you can get, you know, people to kind of get their cigars in the hand and make a review. So like, but how do you do that on coffee? Because it's like, it's by the cup, just like cigars is like by the stick.
Mm-hmm. It's very much the same way. So you know, there are thousands of coffee roasters in the world.
Yeah.
But there's one me. So how I season it or how I blend it, like the comment, or how what I put into it, it's gonna be different. You can get some mac and cheese from a restaurant, or you can get it at your mama's house. You know, it's going to be different, and it's also the experience. Like for me, you know that I roasted my coffee when it was ordered. With larger companies, you don't know who roasted it. You don't know if they cared or not, or were they just, you know, just going through the motions. And for some people, means something to them.
Yeah.
That choice. Yes, fresher. You know, you don't. If you go to a grocery store, you don't know how long that coffee's been sitting on that shelf. But if you order from a craft roaster, you know, I roasted it when you asked for it. You know, it's not sitting on shelves, and I don't have this huge production and things like that. The quality assurance is me tasting it. So you know that, okay, she's not going to put out any garbage, you know. So it's more so just the person.
Yeah. And I think that's like the biggest thing, even with cigars. It's all about, you know, Lewis got to it before I can even, you know, kind of finish what I was getting to. But, you know, and that's where, you know, cigars are different, because, you know, you can grow tobacco anywhere as long as they have very dry soil. You have the right elevation, and, you know, the right type of pesticide stops, and, you know, different things to get away from nature, and you got sun and rain or water. You can grow tobacco. But the thing about it is not everybody can blend tobacco. You never know. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's like, you know, my taste buds or my palate is a lot different from yours. So if you say something is good and I say it's disgusting, then does that make the product bad, or is it just my palate? Same concept when it comes to blending cigars. A master blender can, you know, blend these cigars and be like, this is a phenomenal cigar. And then, you know, everybody starts to smoke and I'm like, what the hell is this? You know, like, who put this in production? And, you know, and I think that's the same way with coffee is, you know, I've been starting to see like a lot more people having coffee business, but it's like, again, it's like, what are like this coffee? Like, is it something special? You know, like Maxwell House, Folgers, you know, Starbucks. But now, you know, it's kind of like, it's more of the freshness of it. So like, how is so if I was to order a product, you know, a bag of coffee or something, like, explain that process to me, and how does the freshness when I buy from you and put it in my coffee pot versus if I buy Folgers or Maxwell and put it in my coffee pot, what's the differences?
So I only roast specialty coffee, right? The examples you've given may not necessarily, and what that means is it's scored at a certain number, right? And you know, with the blend, the balance, the flavor, it's much like scoring a cigar. So you know, the specialty coffee is coffee that is scored at a certain level. So that's what's different. And one of the things I've noticed is that more people are getting into coffee industry, And I like to think what makes me different is I roast mine. So I actually get these beans. I actually look at them. I actually grade them. I actually work with the farmers to ensure they get a fair price, right? Because in many in many cases, coffee is considered a poverty crop. You know, they do so much work. So that one bean I held up, there are two of those in a coffee cherry. So you can imagine how many cherries someone has to pick, somebody has to grow, somebody has to tend to, right? To make your cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And I actually found that many of them would get robbed. Many of them would be taxed by the government. And it was really unfair. They did not, or they have not rather, been given fair wages for their coffee, because you have to allow a room for certain hands. Everybody got to get paid, right?
Yeah.
So the farmer is the one that gets the lowest share. So a cup of coffee that may cost $6-7, to you, that farmer may have only made 25 cents. So, you know, buying from a company like mine, you know that the farmer was paid fairly.
Right.
And so it just it depends on where you want to spend your money. Like, for example, this morning I was driving. I stopped at Dunkin'. Dunkin' is my on the go cup of choice, right? So I stopped at Dunkin'. So all of them bring different things to the table. All companies bring different things. All roasters bring different things. You know, back to my macaroni and cheese example. Everybody's, you know, special sauce or their seasoning is going to be a little different.
Yeah.
So
understanding that, explain the roasting process and how do we get to every single part. So you're saying the green, you know, is going to be a little more grassy, your medium roast. Like, what is the process for this for anybody that's curious like myself?
Okay, so you get a roaster, right? You get a commercial drum roaster, and you put the green. So it all starts with green, and your profile is how much air you're providing, how much gas, how much heat, what temperature you're cooking these beans at, and when you execute your desired profile, then you dump them. And you know, then it's like, okay, that's what I'm giving out to the public. And this bean, in terms of look, in terms of moisture content, in terms of size, in terms of flavor, that's what I will put my name on and say, okay, this was roasted by me. And also, much like with cigars, you know, the funny thing you were talking about, the element, cigars and coffee are grown in many of the same places.
Absolutely.
So, you know, like I said, the Ethiopian coffees, they tend to have a chocolatey berry taste, right? So your skill as a roaster, in terms of applying the heat, applying the air, you know, considering the time, your skill is to bring that flavor out.
Right. So just kind of going more into depth of that roasting, right? So explain the process, right? So you got the bean. We take the bean, we put it in a roaster. All right. We roast it for 30 minutes, 25 minutes, 10 minutes, 7 minutes.
Then I, you know, dump them out because you don't want to overcook your beans.
Yeah. So I guess my question is, like, okay, I want to make a medium roast.
Okay.
I want to make a medium roast. Like, what notes are we getting out of medium roast? And then two, like, how intensive is the unit? The purpose is the purpose of the question is to really get the people to understand the complexity that goes into making cigars, right? I mean, going to making coffee. Like, we understand what it takes to ferment a leaf, right? Or at least I do. You know, you got to flip it for months and months at a time and weeks at a time, you know, depending on where it is that you're trying to, what kind of strength you're trying to get. Like, help us explain or understand deeper into, you know, the process. You know what I mean?
That same thing you just said, right? Where did that bean come from? What is the density of that bean? What is the water content of that bean? How does that bean behave, you know, at different temperatures? So you then, just like when you make a determination of how to ferment, you make that determination on, okay, you know what, this bean has these characteristics. And so because it has a higher water content, I may want to take it lower and slower, but roast it longer.
Yeah.
So that's my profile, and it is very much the same way you said with fermentation, where it came from, what are the characteristics of it, how does it want to behave?
Yeah.
Because you cannot roast every origin the same way. I can't roast a decaf bean the same way I roasted a bean from Ethiopia that's fully caffeinated.
Yeah.
I you know, they're going to have different requirements and characteristics.
So a decaffeinated bean versus a caffeinated bean. I mean, and now you're speaking Spanish to me because I don't understand. So I'm sure I don't understand. A lot of people don't understand. I know Lewis has some questions about how many different beans do you use and do you blend different beans. But I think understanding, like, I thought maybe it was like, again, we don't know. So what is the difference between a decaffeinated bean and a caffeinated bean? Like, what is the growing process for that? Like, you know, like
the growing process is going to be the same.
Okay.
It's going to be the same. It's going to come out of that tree. It's going to come off of that coffee plant. It's going to be the same, right? So when you take, when the pickers go in there and they pick the coffee beans, they're cherries, which is funny. They're actually cherries. Okay. And there's two halves usually, unless it's a blueberry, right? So there's those two halves, but you got to get the cherry meat off of it.
So if it does the cherry color or the type of cherry that is grown, does that change based on if it's decaffeinated or caffeinated?
Not yet. The caffeination is in the processing.
Okay, right? There we go.
So everything is the same the way it's grown.
Okay.
But once it's time to process it, for example, I made wet, I made dry, you know, different processing techniques that they have. But with the decaf coffee, there is a step in the processes that they are able to remove some of the caffeine from those beans. Yeah. Some of it is chemical. Some of it is water, different water techniques, and they keep them proprietary. But for the most part, the caffeine is then removed from that bean, and then it shows up on your shelf.
So is the caffeine like the skin of the bean, or is it like the internal? Like, what makes a bean caffeinated?
The characteristics. So you know how if you put your hand in water, you know how it'll sometimes your skin will start wrinkling. Mm-hmm. Okay, so imagine, but it's that same hand. Mm-hmm. So take that bean and put it in some water, and characteristics may change a bit. And that's what is when it is removing that caffeine, or they can do it with a chemical. But you know, either way, you're based on your hand shriveling up like that, there is a physical change in your hand. And when you decaffeinate a bean, there's a physical change in that bean. So for example, when I roast decaffeinated beans, right? You know, and I won't nerd out too much, but there is a chaff or a silver skin over that seed, right? when I roast a decaffeinated bean, I don't get as much chaff or silver skin when I'm roasting. So it has modified the physical characteristics of that bean.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. So it is safe to say that when people have a decaffeinated coffee, the natural ability of that, the natural characteristics of that bean has been changed, or so decaf is not really organic.
It can be, because there are some processes that are. You can do chemical base, or you may choose to do a water base. So you can do it in of course the water base is more expensive, just like if you could just drop a chemical pesticide, if you will. It's a bit easier to just do that chemical than it is to go with an organic option.
So that is interesting. So naturally, with caffeinated coffee, is there a such thing as over caffeine on a coffee, or adding more caffeine to a blend to make it a lot more heavier or something like that?
It could be in your blend. For example, you tend to have two types of coffee beans. You got Arabica, which is what we're mostly used to, and then you have a Robusta, right? Sounds like cigar. So we have a Robusta. Robusta is a bit more bitter. It's not as flavorful, but it has a lot more caffeine.
Okay.
So if I want a blend that is higher in caffeine, I can use that type of bean and maybe put other components around it for my flavor.
So does the process to get a more stronger bean, or a robusta?
Yes.
Does that product, like, I know, for instance, a Maduro leaf is normally at the top of the stalk. Some more, is getting a lot of sun, is getting a lot of natural nutrition from our thing that we call the sun. So is the same concept really for like beans as well?
Robusta, so they're think of them as sisters, right? So Arabica, she's this pretty one. That's the more desirable one. That's the one that has the sweet flavor and that that's more available and that we're used to. Whereas Robusta is she may not be as cute. She don't have the flavor.
She the ratchet sister.
Yeah, she the ratchet sister. So
she a little rough around the edges.
Yeah, she might. She has the same characteristics as Arabica. They have the same genes, right? But it's a different variety. And so she has more caffeine in her variety, but she doesn't taste as good.
So is that more of like an espresso bean?
So you know what's crazy? Espresso is how you roast it. So remember I was talking about light, medium, and dark roast?
Yeah.
You can go as dark on a roast and get that crema with that espresso, based on the characteristics of a bean that will give you that. Like I hear a lot of people talk about Cuban coffee, for example, right? But it's a roasting style or a blend.
Yeah.
It's how you roasted it and how it's prepared. Beans. Yep.
Just different way of roasting.
Yep. Like my aficionado, because it has a characteristic that will give it that crema. That's my espresso roast. I take it really dark.
Really? So that would be considered like an Oscuro of the cigar world.
Yep.
That's interesting. I think that, I just think it's crazy how the process is just so similar, and yet I still feel so foreign to it. It's just like, I can probably get myself through it, but like the crema, the ratchet sister, and like I just didn't know it was that much to it. And for me, I thought, this is just my ignorance talking, I thought after you get it off the plant, it comes in this little dark bean, and then you take that bean, and I never knew what roasted was. I had no clue. I know what roasted means. I just didn't know what roasted coffee meant. And I just thought you just pour it in the espresso machine, they press a button, and it comes out the coffee that you needed.
It can be that simple. It can. Okay. It can be that simple if that's what you want. But like, I am a nerd, so I go a bit beyond
absolutely
the basics of that. So, there is so much in the coffee industry that you can nerd out about. So we haven't even begun to talk about grind size and what's the difference between grind size.
No, seriously, I have a question for you. Okay. And your coffee is not instant coffee. It's like ground coffee that you put in a pot. You put the filter, put the coffee in, the water goes, and then it turns into hot coffee, right? What is the difference between that style of ground and an instant style of ground? Like what is the character? Something about instant coffee just doesn't seem. It doesn't seem like it's just like, like how the hell was this coffee even to a point where it just evaporates into some black stuff in a cup?
You trying to get me in trouble, but the only analogy I can come up with is the difference in a premium cigar and a black and mild. So that's the way it makes sense to me.
So you got to explain that. I'm sorry, but you got to. You got to. Okay. So obviously, cigar-wise, we understand what the hell a black and mild is. I mean, and not just the fact that it's not a cigar, but the fact of the matter is a premium cigar is handcrafted. It has whole leaves. Black and mild is made with, seconds, chopped up, machine rolled, and kind of rolled into this filtration process that makes it a little bit different. Same concept, the binder, wrapper, and filler on a black and mild, but just two different type of bases, two different type of quality controls that go into it, and different things of that nature. Yeah. Now, you say that is very comparable to a premium cigar, which somebody took the time to mold this. Got a little molding, air quality checks, which I would imagine that's what beans go through, right? Mm-hmm. Now, how the heck do we break that down, how I just did in coffee? Because now I'm really curious, because I'll be honest with you. I put some coffee in a coffee pot. Didn't know, for me, it was days like, it's instant coffee, yada, yada, yada. It's expensive, whatever. So I pour it in a coffee pot, don't care. And then I go to take out the coffee filter, and there's nothing there. Yeah. And I look at the coffee, and I'm like, something about this process does not seem natural to me. So I don't really know about that. So
but you said it's processing, right? So you know how when you pick a premium cigar, right? Mm-hmm. You're picking leaf characteristics. You're picking how these leaves were taken care of. For me, when I buy green beans, I look for errors or I look for defects in these green beans. Okay. With enough processing, that does not become a factor.
It's not quality control anymore. It's kind of
whatever. So like how you talked about the black and milds will take the ends, they'll take pieces. It doesn't have to be a whole leaf, it doesn't have to be a pretty leaf. Instant coffee is, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, it's much the same way. I'm going to take the defects. I'm going to take whatever green I can get because I'm going to process it. And it's going to turn into black water. So to me, that's the difference.
So is that like Leslie said, when grinding the beans, do you get a different taste in coffee from the coarseness or the fineness of the bean? But I kind of want to caveat just off of this question and say, so is those, and still staying on what we were just talking about, is those beans, or is they like grinded down to like a powder almost?
Yeah, it's processed, and their processes may vary, but it's processed to basically a powder because it's gonna dissolve in your water. So you don't know if that bean had a disease. You don't know if that bean had any kind of defects because I basically pulverized it and turned it into a powder. It's instant. Now with what Leslie is talking about, it's more so preparation style. It does not change your flavor, right? Your different coarseness and fineness. It's your preparation. So if I'm going to use a French press, I'm going to want a coarser ground.
Is that now when you say coarser, you're saying a thicker ground?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So I'm going to want a thicker one because I don't want it to come through the press.
You know what? That makes sense. Because I used to try to French press. What is that? That Cuban coffee. I can't think of the name right now. Somebody commented. The Cuban coffee, yellow.
The Bustelo?
Yeah, Bustelo. Cafe Bustelo. Yeah. So I tried to French press that, but it kept getting into my coffee. And that's probably because the course of it was a lot finer. And that's, yeah.
It may have been made just, you know how you talked about putting it in a filter? And doing the drip? It may have been made for that. That's usually your medium grind.
Okay.
And the fine grind is mostly for your espressos, right? Because you want the high pressure water to be able to go through it. So you want it to be fine.
Yeah. And I think that's the part that makes sense. So now that you kind of got to it, now let's get and dive a little bit deeper. So there's different type of courses of coffee to get for the different type of creation of how you're going to create the coffee. What I mean is, if you're more of a hot water, French press, let it sit, pour it out, whatever you do to heat those up. I forgot the process. I only did it because I seen somebody in the Navy doing it, and I thought it was cool. So I was like, I'm gonna take 20 minutes to make my coffee, and then I realized I didn't have that type of time to make coffee, so I stopped doing it. Anyway, so. What kind of course do you need if you have a French press person? What kind of roast or what kind of course would you tell them to go buy, or whatever the case may be? Or do you have something that kind of break down basis, coffee maker, whatever? I don't know how to finish.
Jack, you just gave me an idea. I could put that on my site because I do have different choices of grind, but that's assuming people know what that means. So, okay, I got that idea.
I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna get coffee and just put in my coffee pot. I'm not even gonna think about it. You say it's coffee, I'm putting in the coffee pot. But you got some people that like a French press. I don't know what it does. I don't know if it's a lot more like, I don't know what it does. I don't get it. But
so you got four. Let's say you got four grinds, right?
Okay.
So I tend to prefer to sell whole bean because you're grinding it when you're getting ready to drink it. So that is, for example, my husband started out buying pre-ground coffee. But if it's already ground when you buy it, some of that flavor, some of that aroma, some of that freshness has been released. And so it's just sitting there releasing freshness and flavor, right? But if you buy it whole bean and grind it when you get ready to drink it, then it's you got maximum aroma, maximum freshness. if you want a French press, you can do coarse. So what you said won't happen. It won't come up through the
screen little thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're able to get better extraction for that method from a coarse grind.
Yeah.
And with what you like with the coffee pot, that's medium all day long.
Medium. So medium roast doesn't mean that it's has more caffeine or is stronger.
See, you are conflating, and I think I'm not explaining it right. We left roasting. Now we're talking about preparation.
Yes, I got you.
We talking about medium grind.
Medium grind. Okay, there we go. So now on your grinder, you have like different settings, right? You got like, that's what you're talking about.
That's what I'm talking about.
Got it. So roasting, see, I don't know, Key. I don't. That's why you teaching me. You teaching everybody right now. And look, everybody in the comment boxes are saying they learning something. So we are learning about coffee today because we don't know. We just drink it. So it's like for me, when people come in and say I'm a beginner to cigars, I love that because so many times we feel like we get to a point where we can't learn anymore, and every time you meet with somebody, you learn something. It's always about seeing their passion. I see your passion for coffee. So it's like, and I know a lot of people that's going to watching this now and watching it later, sees your passion in it. So we're just trying to, kind of get the feel for like what to do. So we not I know I ain't trying to go, buy no coffee beans and roast and do all that. But I just want to know, okay, well, Jack, maybe Starbucks coffee is not the best coffee. Or, I see why people say they don't like, Maxwell or Folgers and stuff like that. Or, why, we should, come and support your business, coffeebykey.com, and order our coffee from, because again, you're talking about the different qualities in it. It's just like, if I can go buy my cigars from Nicaragua, I would. If I can go knock on the door, hey, can I get a box of, the cigars that don't have a wrapper on it yet? I would do that all day because, again, 9 times out of 10, the freshness is still there. You know what I mean? And it's like, yes, they have a great process to make sure it gets to the retail stores. And I'm not saying that cigars are not fresh in retail stores. So nobody takes that and starts, oh, my God, Jack said this. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if you ever smoke a cigar at actual manufacturing, warehouse, and then smoke the same cigar in a store, you got different types of smokes. I mean, not astronomically different, but I mean, you can tell which one fresher or which one just got rolled and which one didn't.
Right. Or like if you pick a tomato out of your garden and eat it versus if you go to Publix.
Come on. You're preaching better than they say amen now. So that's why I'm trying to learn this part so I know what it is, so I can educate myself and be like, no, I get my coffee from Key. What you talking about? This is premium coffee. We ain't drinking none of that Starbucks coffee, that you got over there, or that Dunkin' Donuts that's in the stove in the bag. So kind of going into that question, right? Like cigars are all about like moisture and making sure that the humidity, the climate, that the stuff is kept. Is there any special climate or condition in which you should keep the beans prior to roasting or after you roast? Kind of explaining that process.
Okay, so there are for beans we have grain pro bags, right? So you can keep them in a climate controlled area. They're not as sensitive as cigars. You don't have to have a certain amount of humidity to them, but you don't want it to be extra dry. You don't want to dry your beans out. So that's the green side. Now, as a consumer, let's say you order some whole beans, right? You order a pound, but you're not going to drink a pound soon. You can put them in the freezer to slow that loss of aroma, loss of freshness. You can slow it down by putting them in the freezer.
Interesting. So there's nothing really like catastrophic as long as it's that room temperature is pretty much good. And then if you
airtight containers. Air is an enemy of it, of the freshness. It makes it kind of stale, almost sour tasting it can be. So you want to put them in an airtight container. If you're sitting them out on your counter.
Okay.
But you can freeze them if you need to keep them fresher longer. You can freeze them.
Okay. So when is Dapper D's getting its own exclusive coffee, or just a good batch of coffee that we can start brewing here for all our customers? So when they drink that coffee like I am, that's delicious, by the way, and be like, oh, yes. When we getting our shipment in?
So, you know what? I have 2 samples in mind that I want you to try for exclusivity. One of them is from Nicaragua.
Okay.
It's a chocolatey one.
Okay.
And the other one is from Brazil.
Okay.
And so I want you to try those, and you tell me, and then we can work them out. And
then with those, we're going to bring one that will be the specialty coffee here at Dapper D's only. No more Starbucks, no more Maxwell House, no more Folgers. We're going to have coffee by key, because that's what we do.
Okay.
We businesses that support businesses. I love it. So
works for me.
Let's get the samples in. Let's try them out, and then we'll pick one. And everybody that comes to Dapper D's, you gotta trust me. Hey, look, my recommendations go a long way. Okay, so I'm not gonna steer you wrong. Trust and believe. But yes, I'm looking forward to that. So we will get that, and then test that out, and for sure. So what is one thing that you want people to more or less appreciate more about the cigars and coffee moment? That was a good one. I thought about that.
That was good. Give yourself a gold star.
I know. I'm gonna give myself a smiley face on my report card.
It's, you know what I like, what I want people to think about is it's based on your palate, just like cigars. Like for me, I'll pair a bold coffee with a medium stick. Some people will pair a light coffee with a medium to full stick. It's all based on what your preference is.
Yeah.
And
you know what? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. I'm sorry. You got it.
I drink coffee black. Some people want that creaminess in there, so they'll add the creamers and sweetness, and so they'll want to pair it with a certain type of stick. And one of the things I would say is there are no rules.
Yeah.
So however you want to enjoy it a lot.
Uh-oh.
And so it's your preference.
So my question is, right, when one of my questions I usually ask, consumers when looking for a recommendation to different things of that nature is, how do you normally drink your coffee, right? So in theory, if you like a bold coffee, you'll normally like a bold cigar. But it sounds like you just kind of debunked that. So I just want to make sure we still are going down that same line, or if we're not, I need to change my tactics. And clearly everybody else.
It's true, though. It's like if you like, that's a good starting point. Because remember, I wouldn't say remember because I didn't say it, but I started, my first cigar was an acid blondie with coffee. Now, as my palate developed, I have other favorites or other preferences.
Yeah.
And so, but if somebody were asking me, what kind of coffee do you like? When I first started smoking cigars, that would have been a good starting point.
Absolutely.
And
because
as my palate developed, it changed.
Absolutely. Because honestly, if you like a coffee that is, real creamy, has a ton of sugar on it, then a bold cigar is going to be a total turnoff for you.
Yes.
You're looking for something sweet. Your palate is attracted to sweet. For me, I usually get, I'm an iced coffee type of drinker, right? I love a hot cup of coffee, but it makes me hot. So I don't really drink too much hot coffee, but I like cold. So what I realized is I don't really like my stuff sweet, but I don't like it super bitter. But I'm also the same way kind of on cigars. I love a Maduro, but I hate a spicy Maduro. I think the spice of it kind of turns you off from taking on to any other notes. And I think it's just the same way with the coffee. When it's too bold, you can't take out those notes that you would normally get. Like you said, you have a bean that is more of a chocolatey flavor. If it's so bold to the point where you can't taste the chocolate, then I mean it's just a cup of coffee, But again, it's all about that experience. So I'm all with you on that one because it makes a lot of sense to that perspective of understanding the coffee and understanding how it blends and how it blends to your palate. So I was just making sure I wasn't wrong. And
no, it's right. You know what? Another tip. If you're drinking a coffee that's black, right, and it's too strong or bitter, put a little salt in it.
Salt?
You can put a little salt in it, and you can also. I play with coffee different ways and different. You can also put cayenne pepper in your coffee too.
Oh, that's too. I don't like hot.
It's not
hot. Really?
Yeah.
So what does those do to the coffee? Like, is it like I don't know? Like
it's just seasoning. It's so the salt balances that bitterness. Oh, yep. See, I got a cosign.
I'm telling you, we all are like salt. That's crazy. That's crazy. And I guess like as you again, like you said, as your palate matures, you start to like me. I can drink a black coffee with nothing in it. It's probably not my go-to. I gotta have a little. I'm a light-skinned person, so I like a little light skin, But for me, that's like I understand how that correlates with everything. And I want to get to another comment because or some Vedas or some Jack or
rum bourbon cream with a little more bourbon in it. Big Joe of Angry Teddy told me that. He said add a little bit of bourbon to your bourbon cream.
Uh-huh.
I still haven't done it yet, but I'm going to do it, Big Joe. I promise.
Hey, look, come on. I want to get to this one, right? Because I think this kind of correlates directly with coffee. As you start to drink coffee for different reasons, whether it's to stay up, whether it's just something to drink, or if it's a pick me up for the day, or whatever the case may be, it may changes. And I remember when he first started ordering from us. I actually served in the Navy with him. He used to order Cuba Cubas, and I was like, man, you really love these damn Cuba Cubas, huh? You need to get yourself a real cigar. And the same concept is like, man, you really love all this creamer and these sugars. I mean, might as well put like 30 packets of sugar in that coffee. And it's like, man, you're going to have diabetes messing with coffee. Yeah. And so I think it's just crazy, like how your palate progresses and you can really start to see the progression on the different things that you would eat. Like you would eat different, you would sip coffee different, you would smoke different. So I think that's interesting.
Yeah, my husband's coffee is lighter than you. He loves putting cream in it, and it's like he adds a little bit of coffee. But one thing he has progressed in, he will only grind it that morning. He will not drink pre-ground anymore.
Well, I'm looking forward to this coffee tasting, man. I mean, if we can even probably get to a point where we do an event here at Dapper D's where we could do a cigar and coffee tasting based on maybe the cigars. We'll point a couple cigars at maybe a lighter cigar, a medium cigar, a Maduro, and kind of put them together so we can really understand the complexity of coffee a little bit more. And, for people that don't watch this show, or, customers that, just want to learn more about why we say water and coffee is a good way to cleanse your palate and really understand the notes of a cigar. So, whenever you got the time, shoot it to me. I'm all game.
Awesome.
Well, as always, man, we appreciate you coming through and appreciate everybody that, not only supported, that interacted on this segment. I know we went over our scheduled time, but it was that good. And I learned so much about coffee that I really didn't realize that I did not know. I thought I was good on the coffee game, but no, we have to, do some more. But one thing that we do on the virtual smoke deck is we drop a gem. Anything that is on your heart, whether it's dealing with business, whether it's dealing with personal, whether it's whatever the case may be. What is your one gem that you want to drop on the viewers today?
I'm going to steal, borrow, repurpose, whatever we use, from Robert Brown. And one of the things he said to me when I first decided to do to talk about coffee and cigars is you're in your own lane. So being authentic to yourself, and that applies in everything really. Being authentic to yourself, your lane, what feels comfortable for you. I can't look at another roaster and say, you know what, I want to do exactly what they're doing. I have to be in my lane.
Yeah.
And that has been a gem that fits with my life. Everything in my life is my lane. So you think about, with you being Navy, how many people said they could never be on the ship for 6 months at a time, right? Yeah. So that's not their lane, but we did it.
Yeah.
So,
what's crazy about that, Jim? I have heard a lot of gyms, and most of the time I'll be like, well, thank you so much for coming. But I want to hit on that just a tad bit more, because, one thing somebody told me once before was, whatever cigar lounges are doing, let them have it. And you do whatever it is that they're not doing or different. That's what you do. And, shout out to Abe, because Abe has a great way of doing that. He's the owner of To Smoke In Cigars down in West Palm Beach. And, it's funny that you hit on that, because, so many times we focus on things that is how do we make our product better, right? Obviously, we want to make our product the best, but how are we presenting our product? How are we getting our product to the hands of the people? How are we getting our products to people's lips to, get them to walk in is the most important thing. How do we keep them coming back?
Yes.
What is our process that keeps them coming back? And I think, you doing, having a mindset that's kind of focusing on, cigars and coffee, I think that's genius, because I don't think a lot of roasters, let alone coffee companies, focus on, how do I blend a mixture or a coffee that fits best with one of the most underutilized ways of drinking coffee, which is mostly while smoking a cigar. Yeah, you got the morning. Everybody does it for the morning. Okay, you got that. Keep it. Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, you keep that. But now getting into every cigar lounge and saying, hey, this is a great way, to sell coffee and do whatever the case may be, because we have gotten to a point where we understand cigars, understand the notes, and understand they correlate very closely with each other. And now we're focusing on creating a coffee that's great for cigars. I think that is freaking genius. So you're spot on. Just keep doing exactly what it is that you're doing, and don't try to. I never was in the business of trying to be like somebody else. I know people love my shop. People want to, know where I get X, Y, and Z from. But at the end of the day, look, you got to do your own work. You got to do your own. You got to stay in your own lane, like you said, and then also do what's best for you. And whatever everybody else is doing is not the thing to do, because it sells, because it works. To understand that process is a lot different from what it is that you're willing to do. So that was good. I like that one. Good. That was good. Well, Keith, thank you so much for coming on to the show. I mean, just by the comments, we have phenomenal ravings on how this show went, and I think we did a not only a fantastic job, but it's all a testament to you and the knowledge of what it is that is coffee. And I think as anything that you do in life, the best thing that you can do is know what the hell you're talking about. So many people get into things and not have a clue of what they're talking about, don't know how to have the conversation, and it's like it shows. For real people that can understand BS, it's terrible. So great job. Thank you so much, and keep grinding. We would love to. We're waiting on that coffee. As soon as that coffee comes, we got you on that. So again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you to everybody that chimed in and commented. You are the real MVP. Key, you got any last words for us?
Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you all for watching. And I'm going to go back and look at the comments, make sure I answer questions. But I appreciate all of you. I appreciate this community. And I appreciate being able to chat with you. And I'm going to get out to Riverside too, or River Market.
River City. Yep. Got you. River
City.
City. Come on, girl. Mars on that island, don't get off that island. That's what it is. But Keith, thank you so much. It was a pleasure. You have a good day. Stick around. I'd love to have a sidebar conversation with you.
Okay.
Perfect. Hey, that's the thing about, understanding cigars, and not only understanding cigars, but understanding the complexity of the things that we like to do with cigars. I think it's best if you've never been to a whiskey tasting to taste different whiskeys. If you've never been to a bourbon tasting to taste different bourbons. With your cigars, especially if you're a cigar connoisseur. For me, I like coffee, so understanding that it's best to understand what I'm pairing with my cigars to get the most satisfaction out of my cigars is everything. The way to have the most freshest palate is everything. So, whatever it is that you're trying to do in life, understand it and learn it to a T. Be an expert at it. Fall in love with the process. Fall in love with the ability to not only deliver a service, but deliver it at the best possible way you can, man. We appreciate everybody that tunes in every week to enjoy us on the virtual smoke deck. We're really looking forward to everything that you guys are doing for us, and we just ask that you continue to support. Next week is actually a business, cigars and business talk. We're going into something really good, so y'all don't want to miss that. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit that like button. Hit that, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, give us a big thumbs up, and also turn on the notification bell. If you're watching on Facebook, go ahead and follow Dapper D Cigars, as well as follow the Virtual Smoke Deck on Facebook. Share our content. We appreciate your support. And also, if you're in the Jacksonville area or traveling through the Jacksonville area, come see us at Dapper D Cigars, 725 Scarmunch Drive, Suite 3, Jacksonville, Florida, 32218. Also, if you're not able to make it down, go ahead and check us out on our website, dapperDcigars.com. And I'm Jack the Cigar Enthusiast. I appreciate y'all time, but I'm gone.